All right, everybody, what's up? Good morning, Monday, March 24th, 2025. This is the Beyond Pro Monday Mastermind. We got Brian Parsley with us today. Gonna be going over a little bit of some of the stuff he shared a couple weeks ago. I'm sure diving into some new stuff that we haven't even thought of yet. And with no further ado, let's hand it over to Brian. So glad to have you. Thanks for joining, and can't wait to see what you got for us.
Well, let's set our expectations low. All right. So, great to see everybody. Look, when we were out there, it was an immersion of a lot of information, and you guys got inundated, not just from me and sharing ideas and best practices, but everything else that you saw there. So, knowing that to be true, we know that when we teach or transfer these skills, and perhaps we'll be able to do this with you guys as well, but we do a complete immersion, and that immersion is what creates success because uh, practice makes permanent. And that's going to be true for every session. Now, I want to say that I'll begin by saying one of the most impressive things with everyone that I met, and let's not be foolish to believe that everyone will be here forever, but one thing that you guys do really, really well is hype and being able to get excited and having the willingness. And most of the people that I met were very driven about women. And, and you have a high threshold for pain, which is another great thing. And translation to that would be rejection. So with all that said, how do we integrate um, a tactic or an idea that we can leverage and use? And when we think about the sales process and the sales funnel methodology in general, as a reminder, it's all based on behaviors because behaviors are the most predictable outcome for any human being. What do I mean by that? We are genetically predisposed to want to help people. So if we can use certain language a certain way, we know it'll yield a very specific result. Like if I go up to somebody, I need your help, and you make that that statement, most people will lean into that, say, what do you need? Right? We're not gonna say like you're not gonna get F off. Maybe if you're, working in the Northeast, but most places you're not going to get that. So that's oversimplifying it, but I want you to understand that everything that we do and how we say what we say is incredibly important because if you remember, shared with you that 93% of communication is nonverbal or tonality, not the actual talk track. The easiest way, and I'm going to kind of take it through linear, the easiest way to build rapport with someone instantly, ironically, is showing a palm of your hand when you're walking to open a door. Hey, my name is Brian. How are you? And by showing your hand, genetically, we know you're not a threat. Back of the hands, fist, holding our hands together, that subconsciously doesn't show that you're friendly or welcoming. A smile, a palm of a hand, um, and I would, and I don't want to. It's been forever since I've done door to door, but I did it one of two ways because you really, literally don't even have but 3 seconds to try to connect with someone. Is the first thing I would do is, hi, I'm Brian. I'm not sure if you can help me, but, and then you ask a question. So in your case, let's just pause there for that one for a second. What would be something you could say? Because remember, the idea is to hook them. So if you walk up to the door, hi, I'm Caleb. I don't know if you can help me, but, or I want to see if you can help me, or can you point me in the right direction? What would be the hook behind that if someone could help me?
I'm thinking instantly of like, could you help me? I'm trying to confirm if this was 3426 or 342. It is, yeah, okay, that's what I thought. It shows here. So we hadn't heard from you. Is that right?
Yeah.
You didn't call.
So that's actually a pretty good one. I like that actually quite a bit. Uh, can someone else think of another one? Is on Duke's side? Are you guys?
So just like Gnome said, I would just I use Parcel, so I pretty much have the customer's name when I approach the door. So maybe some type of specific last name. Hey, is this the Perez residence or anything like that? Just something that makes it more personal.
Yep, I like that a lot as well. anything that confused them. It's funny, I did a call a little different than yours, but I knew who I was supposed to talk to, but I had a gatekeeper first. And this was Friday. And let's say I had to talk to Duke. I the and answered the phone, and she was like, blah blah blah, this is Bryce. I'm like, Bryce, how you been? This is Brian. And it was a lady, but she's like, oh, good, good, how are you? Hey, look, is Duke in the office? And then she didn't even ask who I was with, because in her mind, she felt embarrassed. She was supposed to know who I was because I addressed her by first name and said, how you been? This is Brian. And so when I just said, oh, is Duke in the office? She just like, oh, yeah, yeah, no problem. And transferred me right back to Duke. And on the other part of that, it was that same conversation I had with the lady where I was like, and she answered, Leslie. It's like, Leslie, it's Brian Parsley. How you been? And she goes, oh, I've been good. And then I said, I'm going to let you off the hook. We don't know each other yet. And she went, oh my God, I was racking my brain. Thank you. And it was almost like she was appreciative, and it was a great conversation we had, versus if I call and I do get her on the phone. Hi, I just want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Brian. We're not interested. That's the tonality. Yours are just accelerated because of the length of time you have. That's good news and bad news. Good news is you get the police called, or you get threatened or asked to leave nicely within the first 5 to 10 seconds. Where mine, can take a few times before somebody, responds back to you. Okay. So I think that both of those are great hooks, and that's the most important thing that we need to remember. A witty, which we're going to talk about, is irrelevant if you can't get them to actually engage with you. If you guys want to jot this down, remember there's only two things that people are doing. They either have a problem they don't want, or they're looking for a result they don't have. And pain is the bigger motivator. And the chances of someone having cable, Wi-Fi, or wireless internet is probably fairly high in the neighborhoods you're going in. Would you suspect that?
Every person.
So if we look at result they don't have, could be speed, could be a lower rate, or the pain could be we're painfully slow. Like right now, I'm sitting on my, it looks like I'm on the Google Fiber network, which to me is hit or miss when it goes through my system. And I have a 5G wireless Verizon tower as a backup that I'm pulling down 400 or 500 megabytes every single time. So I have two networks in my home. So I'm paying for the 1 gig, $75. I pay another $55 for my 5G. That's what I pay a month just for Wi-Fi. So if you came to me, be a great example. Hey, we can do this fiber. We're going to guarantee you the pain of me having to pay two, and the pain more so that I get unstable network would make me most likely to want to switch over, right? However, you can't always lead on price. And this is why we're going to get into the witty again. You can't always lead on price because, as an example, and I don't know if I used this as an example when we were up in Coeur d'Alene, but if I'm with Wells Fargo, and I've been with Wells Fargo since 1994, and if you came to me and I don't like them, I'm a number, and they nickel and dime me, and I don't want to be there. But if you said, I'm going to give you $500 to move everything over to Bank of America, I wouldn't do it. I don't even think I would do it for $1,000. And the reason isn't because I don't want the money. The reason is the pain of having to switch and move over is far greater than the pleasure of getting some type of incentive. The pain, even though it might be subjective or non-realized, of switching over, even for me on my fiber, to switch over from Google, like, what do I got to do? Do I have to call them? I got to cancel. Do I return the equipment? Do I get new equipment? Even if it's a perceptional thing, could actually impact my unwillingness to have a conversation or a discovery call, which is what you're doing when you go to the door. It's that quick discovery conversation, right? So having that hook to open up the door to get to the witty is the key. So, hi, my name is Brian. We don't know each other yet. I'm working with, the Michaels down the street, and I wanted to, come over and see you personally, right? Or your name came up, and only do this one if it's real, and that's why it's really great. Those first few homes, if you can get, it's like, so if you don't know who lives 3 doors down, whatever, and they go, oh yeah, that's the Johnsons. Then I could go down there and legitimately say your name came up in a conversation with the Michaels down the street, and at least you get, again, that hook or foot in the door to be able to have the conversation. Any questions about that? Does that make sense? Anybody want to add on anything or an idea?
Brian, I'll just add here. I think I'm going to remind everybody, this is kind of brings me to like, this is a similar idea of, something we talked about before, this little one-liner. Bryce has got some one-liners. I've got some. We've all got a couple. Brian, maybe you can remanufacture this thing up and make it even better for us. But something we like to say, which I think is going to tie into perfectly, to try to deduce where is their pain mostly. I often will say, when appropriate, something like, most of the folks I've talked down here, that old copper coax you're on, it's either just getting too slow or too expensive. If it's not both already, they're going to shake their head to one of those or both of it. Yeah, it's been both for a while, or, well, it's too expensive, or really, yeah, the price isn't that bad, but it doesn't work, or that's going to help us identify. But remember, like this little one-liner in here after you break the ice, I think that maybe, Brian, you can take that and work it up into starting to help to figure out, what is the witty, but
It is the one-liner?
Specifically within fiber internet. Everybody I've talked to down here, or most of the neighbors I've talked to, or blah, 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 somebody I've talked to, they've all found it's either getting too slow or too expensive for them if it's not been both already, or if it's not both already. And everyone will shake their head to that when you say that at the door.
Too slow or too expensive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I show here on my map, you're still on that old copper. Yeah, that's fine. Reason we're out here, that they're redoing the whole neighborhood. Everybody I talk to, it's just either getting too slow or too expensive. Not sure how we missed you last year, but if it's not both, it's definitely been one or the other for folks. So everybody's going to go ahead and get it done next week on the fiber. But you can use this kind of, and often that'll guide me into where's their pain at more. Which could then help me ask better questions to get to witty type information.
Yeah. So basically you're saying that, hey, look, most people I've talked to either been frustrated with slow internet or they're paying way more than it's worth. Have you run into this too? Is that what you're
saying? I'm saying it in a little bit more of, I'm implying it's about to be too slow and too expensive for you, whether you even knew it or not. And it's probably one or the other already, which means the other one's coming soon.
Okay. And what is the typical response you get from that?
Halfway through, they start shaking their head and they start laughing, or they say, yeah, it's both. Or they'll say like, well, we don't use a lot of internet, so like the speed's okay, but man, the bill every month, like, I don't know why we're paying $300 for what, like, it doesn't even work right. Or they'll say like, oh, it works fine,
what if we say this?
They'll give you one or the other. They'll confess which one has more pain, bottom line, somehow or the other.
Yeah. So then we gotta, instead of saying something like, you want me to show you, we have a bunch of folks switching over to fiber. Maybe we say something like, and I'm just gonna speak out loud. I'm not sure if it makes sense or not, but we have a bunch of folks that are switching to fiber for both speed and also value. Would you be opposed to just looking at that? I always ask, by the way, yes or no questions. I always ask the no question, because no doesn't feel like they're committed. So would you be against? Would you be opposed? Would it be unreasonable?
is it ridiculous too? Those type of questions, right?
Bryce
Uh,
likes to
Would
say,
you hate me if?
yeah, Bryce likes to say, we find nobody down here really cares who they pay for their TV and their internet. People just want the best value for their money. And then say, would it be ridiculous if we looked at what it would take to get you over on the fiber with everybody else?
well, no, I like where that's going. Would it be ridiculous to compare apples to apples within 1 minute to see if it makes to explore? I would almost not even like to close them, but would it to explore or to look at?
Mhm.
Would you be opposed? How about this one? Would taking a quick look at the fiber option that is exclusive to this neighborhood? What do you think of that one?
I think
What-
this is like, how could you start with, yep, it's going to get more expensive and slow. And yeah, you're right. I don't really care who I pay with the value. And would it be ridiculous for me to at least compare it for 1 minute? I mean,
Would it be crazy to see what faster and cheaper might feel like or look like?
I am always astounded by the unintellectualness of people to do very simple, obvious things like get cheaper, faster internet. But this seems like it would help them understand that we're trying to help them.
And you're not trying to, but it's not you. That's the whole thing. It's not you. It's the 17 other people trying to sell stuff door to door, right? Hey, would you be against me doing a quick check and let you know if fiber's available at your house and what you would actually pay? If I'm dealing with somebody that's an S, very friendly relationship and all that, hey, let me show you. Because remember with S's, and you guys should have that cheat sheet. If they haven't, we can make sure that Bryce and Lucas send that. But, I would say, let me show you how we're actually helping people get faster speeds and lower the bill at the same time. And then you put their address in and you just show them what it would be.
I like all of this. I think we're going to need more help, Brian, on being able to quickly and subconsciously determine their type at the door to reply quickly. But I know that you can help us.
Yeah, and that's again, because of the time that you guys have with them, it's going to take a lot of practice, but you can very quickly see what kind of a person. But then again, remember, Harvard did a study, said people make an initial impression at 150 milliseconds. A blink of an eye is 300 milliseconds. So people are judging you as much as you're trying to judge them quickly. That's why I try to lower the threat level as fast as I can. Hey, that type of thing. I'll give you the example at the car dealership, and I don't know if I shared this, but Ford's one of our clients, and I was just at a dealership on Friday, and we did a split test. People walking up, hi, welcome to Capital Ford, and I'm just looking was the number one kickback, right? Versus walking up to somebody and I go, hi, my name is, oh no, I say, hi, welcome to Capital Ford. Do you have an appointment? And they can only answer it one of two ways. Well, I'm here to see Keith. And then you say, wonderful, let me grab your name and I'll get Keith for you. Or they go, oh, I didn't know we were supposed to have an appointment. And then that's my hook that I go, well, typically we do that to respect people's time, but you caught us in between appointments. I'm happy to help. My name is Brian, and I don't sell cars, but my job is to answer questions, arrange a test drive, give you the information you take home so that you can make a decision that's best for your family. Now, we never want them to go home, right? But what that does is it lowers, and they're like, oh, well, I saw this Mustang online and I wanted to come down and look at it. That's fantastic. Then I go, what was the thing you were looking at most what were you looking to achieve with the Mustang? Well, I just always wanted a sports car. Man, that's amazing. We definitely can do that. Hey, before we get started, I'm curious because it sounds like you know definitely the type of car. What are 3 or 4 things that are critical or non-negotiable for you as it relates to a Mustang? Well, I want a pre-owned, so I really need something with a great warranty. Okay, what else? I'm looking for blah, blah, blah. And we'll go into the witty in a second. But that's how they go into that conversation. They're not to talk about payment, rates, price, anything until they get the witty and close on the witty. That's them. Yours is a very quicker process because you're not really necessarily selling. It's beautiful. You're just getting a signature. and a commitment. That's it. And I don't want to oversimplify it because it's hard to convince somebody that, but you need to get a witty if possible because it builds credibility, rapport, and trust. And that's incredibly important. So once I got that hook, like we use yours as an example, and I go, yeah, I'll take a quick look at it. Absolutely. Really quick, if you had the most perfect Wi-Fi on the planet, reasonably, but what are 2 or 3 things, just bullets, that are incredibly important to you as it relates to that? That's the easiest witty you can get on the spot. And we can role play it real quick too. We'll do it one way, we'll do it the other way. Keith, since you're there and you're a Urus guy. So here's my question to you. So let's do the witty with you. So you're going to be the customer. I got the hook, you got it open, and I say, hey, I'm happy to look that up for you real quick, Keith. I'm curious, what are 2 or 3 things, if you could have the ideal internet experience, what would be 2 or 3 things, just bullets, that would be absolutely critical or non-negotiable for you? What would that look like?
Consistent speeds.
Consistent speeds, okay.
Getting what I'm paying for.
Okay, anything else?
And the bill staying the same price.
Okay, so watch how I do this. Guys, this is really important. So your first one was speed. Your second one was value, I think, right? And then bill not changing. Okay, so what we just did there is we just determined the rules to the game. We now know those are his hot buttons, either a problem or a result. He just gave us the answers to the test. So before, what we were doing was, I could promise you, not knowing yet, because I'm not obviously deep dived into you guys yet, but my gut would say, somebody goes, yeah, I'd have an interest. Okay, here's what we're offering. Basically, you can get for $45 a month, you're going to get 1 gig and and we can have it, and it goes right into puking mode of trying to sell them the solution. And again, what I say, if I'm making $100, $50, $150 a door. If I got an audience, I don't mind spending 5 minutes to make essentially $1,000 an hour. Right? I'll spend 5 minutes to get that data because my odds of closing are going to be much higher if I get that. So first step, remember there's 3 Ds. The first step and criteria, we just did that. What are 2 or 3 bullets? You don't have to go into detail, just tell me. I give that instruction on purpose because otherwise, guess what'll happen? Well, I need speed, and my wife, she does a lot of meetings, and then I don't need to hear all that. I just want to know what the criteria is. Now, by the way, never ever, this is my disclaimer, say I don't need to hear all that. I'm just sharing with you, like we just need to get the bullets. Once I get the criteria, the second D is defining it, to define what that means to him. So I'll do the second D, and then I'm going to tell you what the third D is. The third D is determining the real reason behind it. What's the motivation or what's the pain, right? We call it dominant buying motive, okay? So I'm going to do all the criteria first, then I'm going to go into, look at this. Where'd you get all that at?
I take great notes. That's from my handwritten notes at the conference that I already put out. Because I was going to go over that today if I didn't, before I knew you were over here. Because
Fantastic. And
so here it is in the notes, guys. Copy that down.
And the third D is diagnosing the dominant environment. So Keith, so let me hit yours. Here's how I would do that. And let's make it real time. So I'll go, so you just gave me the criteria. I go, thank you for sharing that with me. And I'm sure you got to have a piece of paper or iPad or something. I'm assuming you don't just walk up with nothing in your hand.
Sometimes.
I would have a
Yeah,
sword.
my phone, just my phone. I have nothing.
Just phone.
I would, well, then this is your shield and this better be your sword. And you better write shit down because if you don't, you won't remember. I would have my notes up, even if it's the same one you do over and over again. I already have it in there, right? And if they don't say price, guess what I'm going to say? I noticed you didn't mention price. That's usually the top for most people. Is there a reason why? I'm creating a situation where we're not going to have objections because I'm going to know every objection before they even come up. Okay. So pretty straightforward and easy. Okay. So then I'm going to go into define and diagnose. I'll say, hey, Keith, when you said speed a moment ago, tell me more about that. Or how do you define that? What does that look like? Can you share with me an example of what good speed is? And then
So,
go ahead.
do you want me to
No,
role
let's
play?
do it. Let's do it.
So, we have difficulties when around like 3 o'clock to like 8 o'clock every day because it seems like everybody gets home at the same time as using the internet, and we end up having all of our stuff buffer.
When you say buffering, is it like really lagging?
Mm-hmm.
Is it more so watching videos or is it like general web?
Video games, streaming movies, working from home, everything.
Yeah, we hear that a lot, especially cable. If they're on cable, Yeah, unfortunately, that is one of the side effects of that is throttling. Yeah, no, I hear you. If you were able to have that speed be more consistent during those afternoon periods, how would that impact your life personally?
And we make it a lot easier dealing with all these kids that are trying to use the internet and not able to do it, for sure.
It gives you a bit of less distraction to work on things that are actually important.
Correct.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. The other question I had was you were talking about the billing. I'm sorry, the value. Share with me what you mean by that. And then I'll do the same thing. And then I'm going to diagnose that. How does that impact you personally? If you're able to have that, what would that eliminate? How would that improve your streaming? If you had that. Same thing with the value. Same thing with the bill changing. Now, after each one of those, when I do that, Keith, I would say this at the end. That makes total sense. And then I go on. What's that?
Yeah, it makes total sense. We've been hearing that a lot from the rest of your neighbors as well.
Yep. And then what I'll do when I start presenting, I don't even know, like, because of, let me tell you in theory how we teach this, but door to door, we might need to change it a little bit. In theory, what we do is we'll close the witty, which is really just uncovering objections, where I'll say, look, Keith, if we were able to meet or exceed the things that you just shared with me that are critical, and I just need to ask a couple more questions to see even if it's possible. But if we were able to meet or exceed that, could we partner with you on your Wi-Fi? And what I'm looking for are objections, not yeses. If you get a yes, that's great. Then I would go right into features and benefits. If they give you a pushback, well, it's going to depend on the price. Then I just get out my remote control. I was looking for remote control in here. I would get out my remote control and just fast forward that objection. Let's assume the pricing does make sense. What else needs to happen? So no, that's it. It's like fantastic. Or they go, I just need to make sure my wife's okay with it, which may be a lie. Okay. We call that the vague authority. So the way you test for that is, well, makes total sense. I'm curious, your wife obviously better than anybody. What pushback or challenges do you think she might have based on what we've discussed? And then obviously he's going to probably say, oh, I don't think she'll have any. But if he does, it's really his objection. She might be concerned with the buffering, whatever. Say, well, what would make her feel more comfortable? But if he says, no, it looks really good, then I would say, well, if she asked you your opinion, would I have your vote? Right? And then if he goes, absolutely, say, well, I'm glad she trusts you because obviously your opinion means something. And that's the trick bag that they can't do it. Why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead and just make the assumption? Now, this is me. I'm a little bit more aggressive, Keith. I totally get it. And you got to do it. Why don't we go ahead and just go ahead and get it in the system and I'll suspend it and I'll wait until, I'll call you a little bit later.
That's literally, I just got done training rookies on how to overcome that objection. That's the exact same way that I trained them to do it. Is, hey, look, I get it. I don't want to cause any arguments between you and your wife, but you know her better than I do. Do you think she's going to oppose to the internet being faster, more reliable, or cheaper?
Yeah.
And then you kind of go, and look, I don't want to cause fights. Let's do this while I'm here. Let's go ahead and get you on the route. We can't do it for at least 3 days anyways. I'm going to give you my personal information. If she has any questions or just absolutely doesn't want to do it, you just text me and let me know. But it takes me less than 2 minutes. What's your first and last name?
That's it. I love it. And I think that's kind of the direction that we have to hook. But if I can figure out what those objections are up front, then I'm golden. Now, here's the other part. If you guys can kind of soak this one in. When I'm presenting, and you're presenting what? Here's the way the agreement looks. It's month to month, no contract. This is what our guarantee. We're going to give you a install, and they'll bring you routers or whatever it is. What I would do is I would address two things. Number one, what the features and benefits are, especially if you can tie them to the speed. As the example, back to the witty, and we want a pulse check. Are they alive? Are they here? And the way I do that is, Keith. All right, so let me share with you what's happening here. I thought it was raining. There was a stupid cat climbing on this chair. So I was hearing noise. Is to say, when we're talking about speed, one of the things that fiber offers is this consistent blah, 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 that's not going to eliminate the buffering, XYZ. And then once I'm done sharing, and we'll make sure you have the best router, the most up-to-date router to get you the highest speed across the fiber, wireless. And then I'll pulse check where I'll say, am I missing anything? Did that answer your question? Does that solve that challenge for you? But I want to see, and does that bring up any other questions? I want to make sure, because think about it. How many times do people cancel afterwards because they didn't think about something until after you walked away? And this prevents that from happening. That's why.
Would it make sense to go through like the top 3 things, like right before you go into the offer, about what all the neighbors have asked? Like, what's the cancellation process for my current provider? Is there going to be any downtime? Would you kind of preface and give that information to them up front?
No, I would let them, if they can't think of what's important to them, then I'll say, I'll give you an example, but I don't want to lead you. A lot of they were asking about downtime as an example. If we move over, are we going to be offline and for how long? And try to get them to do it. However, one of the things that I would recommend is I would recommend that you, sorry, I got distracted by your private message, but thank you for that. One of the things that I would recommend you do is when you're delivering the features and benefits, tie them back to that witty, and if they're not in there, then I would say, by the way, now that let's say we did all 3 of your things. And I say, is there to bring up any other questions? No, that's it. There are a couple that I want to address that many of your neighbors had concerns with. And I don't want to make sure that maybe you haven't considered them, but I want you to know we have. And that's the word, I think. We just figured that one out. So once we do their witty, repeat it and pulse check it, say, a couple of the things that you didn't bring up that we've heard quite a bit in this neighborhood. I want to make sure that how did I say it? I want to make sure that
there's a couple of things that your neighbors brought up that you didn't think about, but we did.
Yes, that maybe they didn't think about, but we have, and we always want to make sure we address that up front. Boom, and then you go right into it.
That's pretty much what I'm doing.
Yeah. Does Carlos have a Carlos picture of Carlos?
I can take it off.
Do you refer to yourself in the third person when you talk?
No.
No, I'm being funny, Carlos. Like he comes up to the house. Hi, Carlos says, good afternoon. Who's Carlos? Me.
I never mentioned my name until I gained there. I'm just telling them I'm with First Fiber, and then I'll roll into that. And then once they want to do it, then I'll get their name, and then I'll tell them my name.
All right.
Hey, Carlos, got a fiber shirt for you in case you don't got one.
No, brother. I got one. I got a fiber shirt for sure.
He's got what? He's not fooling around.
Yeah, in his head, he just said, Carlos have fiber Beyond Pro shirt.
That's right, man. I ain't dressed yet for the day, man. I was on the call and then I jumped on this call. So
Yeah.
I'm
Well, you look very fit in that shirt.
thank you, brother.
All right. So, are there any other questions? Because I know, again, this is kind of drinking from a fire hose, and practice makes permanent. So the more we do it, but the key thing is get that hook up front, get that witty, and it's very conversational. 2 or 3 bullets. Close on the witty if possible, but most importantly, when I do start signing them up, make sure that I'm pulse checking. Does that bring up any other questions? Does that make sense? Did I cover everything? Did that make you feel comfortable based on that? And then doing the key thing where we said, a couple things that you didn't mention, but we know to be true, or a couple things you didn't mention that a lot of times comes up later that we wanted to address. Boom. And then you do that. And then the other last thing is the objection of, I need to talk to my wife. Hey, look, I totally get it. Now, remember, and this is the last thing. Remember, I said you want to be an ally, not an adversary. Adversary is justifying, rationalizing, trying to, hey, wait. Allies are, I hear you, I get it, makes sense. I see where you're coming from. Yes, sir, no, ma'am. That way they lower their guard because you're literally walking in there with the, hey, I totally get it. I understand. And they're not expecting you to push back against them. All right. I'm going to turn it back over to you. And if there's anything else we can do on our side.
Well, thanks for being on, Brian. Guys, everything Brian's saying is like the same things we've been saying the whole time. He has been exceptionally, he's been able to break some of these bigger concepts we've mentioned before into very specific, dissectable, instructable, repeatable, duplicable parts, right? So like we talked a lot about, they're going to have a secret objection, right? Before, what Brian has now dissected for us, how do you ask the correct questions to get all the objections gone until you get to the last most secret objection and then, overcome it, right? So pay attention here because everything we've said, Ryan is repeating, and now there's even things that obviously I didn't even know about, like the witty or whatever, but really dissecting this down, if we can get these little phrases coming out of our mouths in the right order and do what Brian is showing us, it's going to take everything that you're doing right and turn the volume up really quick. And it's probably going to take everything that you're doing that's not helping and get it out of your pitch really quick. And I think you're going to see a massive increase in sales at the door and what percentage of those actually go in, stay on, get paid. So I hope you're listening closely. This has been recorded and I will put it up in the Monday training replays in the next couple hours. Make sure to send anybody that didn't make it over here. Otherwise, I just thank you so much, Brian, for all the wisdom you dropped. We are going to be on again for the PM edition. So if you got teammates that couldn't make it, please tell them to get in here this evening. And otherwise, hope you guys have just a great day out there.
Yep. I'll see everybody, or some of you maybe tonight.
Hey, what time is that call?
5:30 p.m. Pacific. I'll repost in the group
So
chat.
we're in Arizona. What time is that? Is that 8:30 us?
It's you're Arizona, you're on Pacific time now. It's 9:11. That'll be at 5:30 your time.
5:30. Okay.
All right. Thanks everybody. Thanks again, Brian.